Hi everyone, happy new year and late happy holidays. My last video has been a while ago because I took a little break on Christmas, and last week I volunteered at a dog shelter the whole week. For those of you that saw my recent videos, you guys know that I found a dog in Morocco, Nona, and we're in the process of adopting her. So I went to visit her last week and did some volunteer work at the shelter there. It was absolutely incredible. Um, Maybe a little side note, I might make a whole video on this soon, but just being around dogs, like hundreds of dogs for a whole week, just made me really feel how wonderful life really is. I always think, whenever I was in my existential crisis, I used to have this thought of what is one piece of proof that life is truly loving and beautiful? And I always found the arguments, well, dogs exist, and whoever created this planet could not be malicious if they created such a loving loving animal. So, anyways, that's a little side note. I'm back now, and I know it's Saturday, and normally I make my videos on Friday, but I was traveling the whole day yesterday, so I didn't have time. And because I miss you guys so much, I decided to sit down today and make a little video for you guys. It's about a topic that I've actually been wanting to talk about on this channel for a little bit now. And it's inspired by a podcast that I listened to that one of my lovely clients recommended me, from Andrew Huberman. So Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist. He has a podcast called the Huberman Lab, in which he's discussed science-based facts about mental health, physical health, and just improving your overall well-being. And there was one podcast that I listened to that in which a concept was explained that I found to be so incredibly useful for any one of you guys struggling with anxiety or DPDR, that I decided to put that aside, and whenever I had some time to make the video, talk about it. And so that's what I'm doing today. So the episode, for those who are interested in listening to it, was a interview by Huberman with David Goggins. For those of you that don't know David Goggins is some really motivational, influencer, I would say. He also does research, but I'm not sure on what. And basically, he is the epitome of discipline. So he talks about discipline all the time. He says that he's someone who's been genetically really unblessed. So he has ADHD, he has ADD, he has like tendency towards obesity, all of those things. And he has made himself to become one of the most disciplined people of all time. And his whole story is about really defying the idea that even though you have, like, that your destiny is based on things that you can't control, because despite him being so unfortunate with his genetics, essentially he's gone to be super, super successful. Now, why am I wanting to talk about this interview in this video? Because one of the principles that Huberman explained about discipline on a scientific note blew my mind and really reinforced the effectiveness of really enforced what I think is the best method for anxiety recovery or any mental health recovery in general. So basically, Andrew Huberman talked about in the podcast that there's new research that shows that there's a part of your brain, I forgot the name exactly, but if you're interested in it, feel free to look it up on the episode, because he does talk about it. Anyways, there's an area in your brain that whenever you do something that you really, really do not want to do, that you really feel such resistance against doing, and then you do it anyways, this area in your brain expands. And the area in your brain that ends up expanding is the area of your brain that is in charge of what they call, or what you could say, the will to live, your willpower and your discipline, which correlates to your actual desire and will to be alive. And so when I heard him talk about that, it blew my mind, because what this essentially means is that by doing things that your brain tells you it does not want to do, you end up growing and increasing and thriving, basically, in all areas of your life. And when I talk about, the best way to recover from anxiety, I always talk about acceptance, as you guys know. And I thought that this actually might be a good example of talking about what I really mean with acceptance. Because if you think about anxiety and your negative emotions, and also maybe the themes of which your anxiety are related to, like existential thoughts or maybe health anxiety or whatever it might be, what we do essentially in the beginning is we tend to avoid dealing with those topics. We tend to try and run away from them. We tend to try and retract away from that, from either the feeling, either the topic that triggers the feeling, which essentially comes down to the same thing. Now, when I tell people, all right, what happens if you just sit in that feeling and just let yourself feel the emotion and let yourself face the discomfort of the topic instead of running away from it, you're essentially doing something that your brain really does not want to do and creates a lot of resistance around, but you're doing it anyway. And what happens then in your brain when you do that is that part of your brain expands, and you therefore increase your power to live, increase your happiness, increase your willpower, increase your sense of courage and inner strength. And that inner strength then gives you the confidence to deal with that thing more and more. And so the key to hacking a lot of stuff in your mental health, and this is the same thing, by the way, for depression, I think. People always say that the things you should be doing if you're depressed are the things you least want to do, like exercise, hang out with people, get busy. The reason why you don't want to do it is because that part of your brain is so small and it wants to keep you there. But if you then start forcing yourself to do it anyways and actually do the things that you really don't want to do, you start expanding that part of your brain. And essentially, when they were talking about it in the podcast, the whole topic in which they were talking about it was dopamine, and that when you always are just doing what you want to do and you get an instant dopamine relief from that, that you actually end up having a really, really big intolerance against things that you don't want to do, which is why, watching TV, food, alcohol, that kind of stuff can be very addictive. But in my perception, it is very, very applicable to anxiety recovery and DPDR recovery, because what you really do not want to do when you're anxious is do the things that make you anxious or face the topics or patterns that make you anxious. What you want to do is distract, avoid, and just pretend that things that, like, try and not touch the topics you're scared of. But if you think about it this way and really look at the brain science behind it, you can physically see in your brain that it creates more and more strength by facing the things that you're scared of. And for me, it always helps to understand brain science behind, or just science in general, behind something in order for me to kind of go like, okay, this makes sense. Now I feel more confident about going this way. And so I thought that's why I wanted to share that with you guys today. And I'll link the podcast in the description below so that those of you that would like to listen to the entire episode can do that there. So maybe a more practical tip that I want to give you is, if you think about any emotion or anything that is currently going on in your life that you feel a natural tendency to withdraw from, to retract from, to resist, try and see what the best way it could be that you could actually, from a place of courage and from a place of willingness, face it anyway. Say that you've been having resistance to try meditation because you're scared of sitting with yourself. Instead of then never meditating, try and just sit with yourself, do the hard thing anyway, and almost see it as, through the lens of this video today, I want to expand that willpower in me. I want to expand that inner discipline and inner strength by facing it anyways. And hopefully now that you know that there's research to actually back this, it might make you feel a bit more confident next time you're actually willing to expose yourself or sit with an uncomfortable feeling. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I'm happy to be back. I'll be back with a new video next week for sure. And I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely weekend. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Mwah. Bye.